So first of all, thanks everybody for coming. I know everybody has busy lives, and there are many other things you have to be doing than being here on a Thursday night. For folks who don't know, I am Mark Harris. I'm currently the chair of the Budget Committee, and we petitioners what they want to see in an ultimate budget. What do I mean by that? I mean that on May 9th, at the special meeting that we're going to have on Article 1, which is whether we should or should not rescind the budget that was passed on March 3rd, if the vote is to rescind that budget, we have to have a second budget in place, which would be Article 2, that we would basically engage in a town hall-like discussion about getting the budget. So that's where we're going. That's the end goal, is that we have a budget amount for Article 2 on May 9th. So the Budget Committee, I'll talk about the agenda in a minute, but the Budget Committee is going to get feedback from folks. And we're going to meet next week and put together an alternate budget that we will present to the Select Board at their May 4th meeting. So this is just in time delivery, but I think we can do it. In fact, I'm confident that we can do it. So this is the agenda. Those are my head scratching. So I have Dorinda, thankfully, being our timekeeper, because, again, the key here is that we want people's feedback, so we want to manage time in terms of getting as many points of view as possible from folks. So, we're going to spend a little time on remarks and ground rules. Then we're going to spend about 45 minutes understanding petitioners' concerns, because there might be, there's probably not just one concern, there are probably multiple, so we'd like to get them all and discuss those. We're going to take probably a much-needed break. We have food over there. Some of it is healthy, but most of it does not look to be. So then we're going to go into budget options. We're just going to talk about and get feedback from folks. So that's going to be, I think, a little bit more formal part of our meeting. And the goal here is to adjourn by 7 o'clock. So ground rules. You can see them. There are some here. I'm not going to read them off, but I'm just going to make a few comments, and then we're open the floor to any other opening remarks folks want to make before 5:15. So I have followed all the Front Porch Forum posts, and I've had discussions with many individuals who have several points of view on the topic of the budget. And I think it's safe to say that this has been an emotionally charged time in our town. So I think it's a good thing if we can just acknowledge that. It's good to have people who are passionate about their positions. And this is just part of the democratic process, right? This meeting we're having today is part of that. I will say from personal experience, having moderated these types of meetings before, that when we have an emotional investment in a position, it becomes more challenging to remain objective and also to stay open-minded and let other points of view come in. It's just human nature. It's just human nature when we become emotional about issues. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. It's not right or wrong, it just is. That's how we act as humans. The other point I want to make is, I just want to make sure that folks understand there is no right or wrong about this topic. The lens that I look at this through is there's only a better or best. We have a budget that we passed on March 3rd based on information we had at the time. It's very possible there's new information. And that might lead us to a better budget, or it might lead us to a best budget. But those are both positive outcomes that I think we should all reflect on. As someone said previously, this is an opportunity for us as a town to think more deeply about what we want out of town services, how we're going to pay for them, and what they cost. So I'll just say from my personal experience, having been in one viewpoint to start with, that I'm not so sure this is about the money anymore. I think this is more about supporting people and positions in our town. And you might find this a little unusual as the chair of the budget committee. Whether it costs us more or less is almost irrelevant to me. What is more important to me is that the process we go through to get there is as or more important than the decision that we come to. So I just want folks to reflect on that, because, you know, we're in a tough time, but we have people here who clearly care about our town, or they wouldn't be here. So I hope that during this discussion, we can present the best version of what I would term our listening selves, and listen to each other, even when we're not in agreement with those viewpoints. Because the objective tonight is to learn something. And let me tell you, I've had a lot of listening sessions the last 2 weeks, and it's amazing how much information I have learned when I thought I knew exactly what we needed to do. And I'm the first to admit that I'm wrong. My wife will be the second, but I'm the first. So I will stop there, and I will offer, looks like we have a few minutes left, 4 minutes, if anyone else wants to make any comments. We'll start with Shelley.
Only because I tend to be the one that started the petition. I figured I'd give background. Of course, working for the town as a lister and being involved in a lot of the select board meetings since I became a full-time resident, I saw how overloaded like Sarah was, even before the floods. And after Loretta left, you could see she was overwhelmed and overloaded. And then I saw after she left how it impacted the select board. And I think with her knowledge, her husband being a lawyer, now the overload went not only on the office, but onto them. And so I think when I first started hearing it, it was like just before, and I learned from Susan that hindsight's 20/20, but I would have probably been more involved in terms of budget meetings and try to bring this to light, because I mentioned that along with the select board meetings, not knowing what their requirements was, but seeing it in the office and how busy they were. Especially after Sarah left, and seeing just two folks, one trying to learn and then one trying to do everything. Once they got up to speed, that it was working, but still way too much work. So I think my concern, even at the town meeting, is when I saw that they're going to downsize one and then put in another with no experience. That's when I started petitioning, just to open up the communication again. And again, like you said, what I found talking to residents is that was my concern, but there was a lot of other concerns that people had, putting that aside. But that's only my reason, is that I thought, well, table this for a year, see how the three do, and then I've heard a lot more discussions about there's a lot more work involved even than what I saw. But that's kind of where I was when I started, not to be hurt anybody's feelings or be hard on anybody, but as a resident, that's what I saw and was trying to help.
Thank you, Shelley. Yes, sir, your name?
Richard Miller.
Richard, all right, sure, go ahead.
First thing would be to have a more professional town meeting. I've been going to town meetings since I've lived in this town off and on. I've been deployed also, I haven't been to any, but I've seen a slow degradation of the quality of the town meetings, right from the introduction to the topics brought up, and to see things not voted on with an Australian ballot, but by show of hands. That town administrator job, when they pushed that through, the yeas and the nays were almost equal. And if I had been paying more attention, I would have called for a ballot vote on that. That was wrong. The whole meeting is a travesty. You get 100 people in here. How many people in the town of Middlesex don't make the town meeting? How many people would like to vote on these issues? Instead, it's like old home meeting here. I think everything to be decided in this town should be voted on. Australian ballot. None of this pushing stuff through. Another thing too, that $38,900 that goes to Kellogg Public Library, that would have funded half of the town administrator's salary. But instead, every year, we spew out almost $40,000 for what? So a couple of kids can use the library a month later. There's so many things that need to be taken apart and reassembled correctly. Getting the voices out to the people that can't make town meeting day, providing transportation for the people. You know, it's the elderly and the middle-aged people that built this town, that live in this town. We care about it. I grew up in Central Vermont. I saw the same thing happen in the town of Berlin. Same thing that's happening in Middlesex right now. And you can tax and tax and tax, but sooner or later people are going to leave, and you know what? It's already happened. So I think having an arrangement where people could vote on things, where everybody's voice can be heard, instead of just 30 people on a Thursday night. I get what you're trying to do with the budget and everything, I understand. But I think people really ought to know what's going on, and don't rely on front porch folk. That's a place for everybody to vent that won't confront you face to face.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Richard. Other thoughts before we, Matt?
I think what I'd like to speak to is, I want to understand what we think is wrong with the budget specifically, and if we can, try to avoid talking about the process. We're going to have two votes on May 9th. One would be, do we want to change the budget? And that's, I think, a great time to talk. Sorry, we want to rescind the budget. I think that's a great time to talk about process. Did we not follow the right process? But we're going to get to a second one if we do vote yes on that, which is going to be, what should the budget be? And I think it's going to help us. I think the whole town will benefit if we have a good alternative budget going in, than the one that was put up at the town meeting, so that the town can continue on.
Any other
Mark,
thoughts? I know we're past.
I was just going to say, if people on the Zoom want to chime in, they should just get off mute and say, hey, Mark.
Yes,
So,
if you can, my eyes aren't that good. But
no, but we'll hear them.
okay, great. Anything else before we move on to, we've already heard some concerns, which is good, Okay, so what I'd like to do now is an exercise that I'm used to doing in my work life, and that is, I would like folks to just basically tell us about their concerns in sort of, I'm going to call it either a phrase or a word that I can put on the flip chart, so we can list them first. So we'll spend about, yes, Brenda?
Would you like me to write on a flip chart so you can?
If you would, that would be fantastic. Because my handwriting will only get worse.
As long as somebody helps me spell the words,
Okay.
because I'm not great at
So
spelling.
I want to take about 10 minutes, so maybe till 5:30. Just folks, I'll recognize folks who just want to share what their concerns were when they signed the petition. And so if we could just get it down in a few words or a phrase, we can come back and then we're going to spend some time going through each of them in more detail. So, Sam?
I did make some bullets, like we talked about. I made some bullets. I tried
Okay.
to keep them short,
Okay,
like we talked about in the budget committee meeting. So some of them are town office workload.
okay,
That's one
Great.
of them. And feel free to shorten them
Right.
if they're long.
as long as I remember what they mean.
And then office staff are involved,
Okay,
and that's more for like decisions.
the involvement,
and- yeah,
okay,
just-
great, okay,
And you know what would be great is if that can be, like, rather than town office workload, is town office workload is too high. Like, just so that we understand, like, or town office involved should be more involved. Like, like, you know what I mean? Like, make it more like what you want to have.
Town office workload scope.
I don't think you want, I think you want to say that the workload is too high.
I would say a better understanding. I see a lot
Okay.
of people not fully
I just-
understanding what we're responsible for.
Yeah,
for
I
each
just
of
figured
board.
I'd make bullets and then we would touch on
Okay.
them. I thought that kind of
All right,
was
do
the
as-
assignment.
I mean, do as well as you can. If you want bullets, do you have more bullets?
Yeah, I
Okay.
figured I'd just kind of give bullets
All right.
and then everyone would
Yep.
talk about it,
Go ahead.
but we can do something different too.
No, go ahead if you've got some.
So office staff are involved, and then getting rid of someone with knowledge. Transparency,
Okay,
3 positions, just different in title and pay. So these are kind of my, because I didn't want to have like the long-winded, so when we talked,
Right.
when we were in the budget committee,
right,
we talked about not having like long-winded stories and
Yep.
kind of having bullet points from like a petitioner's, because I'm on the budget committee, but this was more of like a, why did I sign the petition? So I wanted to really trim it down as little
Mhm.
bullet points.
so thank you, Sam.
3 positions, just different in title and pay.
Yeah.
So to me, that's in the beginning. Now, I think this is evolved, it sounds like, it may be, so Mark had mentioned, him and Liz sat down with Cheryl, Brenda, and Bridget, which I think is amazing. I'd like to say, I think that's wonderful that they did that. And I think coming out of that meeting, my understanding is there's talk about 4 positions now. So I can't really talk about that because that's not
Yeah.
much I know about. But when I was involved with the petitions, because there's been 2, it was 3 positions that we were talking about. And it talked about the assistant town clerk, which Brenda currently holds, and it was first talked about eliminating her position, and then it changed to reducing it to 8 hours, and then bringing on the town administrator. So when I look at this, I'm seeing, I'm not understanding honestly why, because I'm looking at it, okay, so this is $26 an hour, this is 35. We have knowledge, we know what we're getting. Here, we don't really know. I'm not understanding it. In the beginning, let me just put it there, the select board wanted the 3 positions. The people in the office wanted the 3 positions. It really seemed like it came down to title and pay to me. And so.
And we will get into those specifics in the second part of the meeting. Definitely. All right, other folks want to add to the list? Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
What about the presentation or evaluation in the fact that we have 1,808 people in town and only 100 are at a meeting is not giving you a fair value for the voting? Roughly 6% of the town voted, whatever way they want to vote. But it's not really an overall fair value for the town.
Right, if I hear you, Bill, thank you. Really what you're saying is in a town of 1,750, 1,800 people, 100 people at a town meeting, you don't feel is an adequate representation of, I would say, the total. Yeah, I get it, great. Okay, we have added that.
That was the point that I tried to make.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay,
representation.
voters instead of people. And we just talk about the percentage of people
particular area versus the number of people that live, kids come up with.
Oh, good point, very good point. Your name?
Smaller than
Ira. Okay, great, thank you. We had somebody else.
Is that a concern? I didn't hear it, I'm sorry.
Well, it's just the number my concern is, you're making a comparison that doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so you want,
So
what,
the 1,800,
what can,
I can explain that thing. The 1,800 Tapworth is population, so it's not number of voters. So you're comparing population
Town
to number of
vote,
voters.
population?
I think he's saying
Right.
it would be more representative if your expression is number of voters,
Yes.
registered voters, to number of voters.
So,
Right?
I think the issue, I think, is with the percent.
Yeah, that's gonna be my next question. Do we know how many registered voters we have in Middlesex?
1,592.
Sorry,
1,592?
that's the number of registered voters?
How many people voted? 589.
Okay,
And then Dorinda's number for tax-paying households is 933. So sometimes I think we look at that 1,800 as the population, but really the tax bill is divided into chunks among 933 people.
okay. Other,
Not very many.
Steve?
I agree with a lot of these other concerns, but one of the concerns that I have is you're essentially throwing away an investment by eliminating the position.
Agreed.
Right, we paid a lot of money as a town for this position, for her to learn what she's learned, to bring the value that she does to the town, and to essentially eliminate the position is throwing away the investment that we made.
Okay. It's really this one though, right? Is that, what you're saying is that this person,
No, I'm saying
right?
we're literally, by eliminating the position, we're throwing away the money that we invested.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It's
Right.
a dollar, and it equates
All right.
to a dollar.
It equates to a dollar amount, so
Okay.
every dollar that we paid is an
Okay.
investment for the
That's
town,
fine.
and the knowledge and value that she brings to the town now is essentially we're throwing it away.
So we've got a couple more minutes. Yes, your name?
My name is Becca.
Becca.
And I think I need to first apologize, and I think this is a question, it's not a concern. I don't understand what's going on. We voted on a budget, and then I think there was a petition, maybe a second. I don't know what's going on. I can't be the only one maybe who's confused, but maybe I am. I skimmed some Front Porch Forum posts and came today, but I don't understand what the issue is and what's happening, what the question on the table, I guess I don't understand.
Okay, I can take just a few minutes and then there might be people more qualified than me to.
I can probably explain.
Well, if you let me, then I'll,
Okay.
if I go wrong, I'll look at you, okay? So, there's a Vermont statute law that says, if folks in a town, are unhappy with the budget that's been passed,
Sorry.
they have 30 days.
So it's any article, not just the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Any article, thank you. But anyway, so in this case, the budget, they have 30 days to petition for a revote on that article. And so we need 5% of the voters to do that, and we got well over 5%. And the petition that was signed, it was a little fluky because the first one was about saving someone's job, and that was not legal. The second one was really, should we rescind or not the budget that was passed on March 3rd? And that's the article that we'll be voting on, the first article, at the May 9th meeting. And what we're doing here is finding out what people's concerns were when they signed that petition.
So the reasons that people would like the budget to be rescinded.
Yes.
And then procedurally, if the budget, we're going to vote to rescind or not rescind the budget that we voted on town meeting day. And then it sounds like we would need a different budget to vote on. Will that budget be something we vote on May 9th as well?
Yes.
How does that
Yes.
get put together?
So that's Article 2, that would be Article 2 on May 9th. And we're going to take the feedback, the budget committee, from folks, and we're going to construct an alternate budget that we're going to present to the select board at their May 4th meeting. So we're ready for May 9th with the second budget. Elias.
Point of clarification, at town meeting, I believe we can change budget lines as we want. does it work the same way, this special
Yes.
town meeting? So-
Yes.
So
If
the
we
select
go to
board may have a
Article 2.
proposed alternate budget.
Right.
But the people in the meeting still have total control over.
It's a rerun of Article 6 on March 6th. Yes, Dexter?
Oh, I got a number of concerns. One is the rate of increase of the total town budget over the last 5 or 10 years.
Okay, yep.
That
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
the rate of increase of the town budget over the last 5 or 10 years.
Okay.
I believe it's double, more than double since 2018.
Oh, thank you.
The next concern I have is that I thought there was a lot of redundancy and overlap in this staffing under general government and admin. So that's a concern.
Okay,
Next concern was that the total general government block of the budget, I guess you call it, increased 117.5%.
mm-hmm,
That's a jump that's really of concern to me. Also concerned about the town hall budget. This has to do with electricity, heat, grounds, building repairs, streetlights, janitorial, is that there is $0 budgeted for building repairs. And that is an old building that needs a lot of repairs.
mm-hmm.
And I feel like that should be considered in the budget.
So can I say town hall budget neglected?
Yeah, building repair.
Town hall building budget
Yeah.
building.
So the highway budget, I have a question about that. How many full-time people do we have in the highway department?
I believe we are 4.
We have 4.
Is Paul full-time? Yeah, we have 4.
We have 4.
Yep, 3 road crew, 1 road foreman.
Okay. Let's see. The road commissioner salary I felt was high and fell into the category for redundancy, admin, labor. The tire budget more than doubled this year, and I didn't know if there were specific needs for
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
the tire budget.
Oh, the tire budget. I thought you said the entire budget.
No.
I was sort of, okay.
Budget for tires
Yes.
and equipment
Yep.
maintenance.
Mhm.
The mud season mitigation, which was a capital improvement budget, was just cut in half from $20,000 to $10,000. $20,000 doesn't, but anyway, just in general, and this is my last concern, is that the whole budget doesn't effectively deal with capital improvement needs. I don't feel it. We've got, roads is the town's most, are the town's most valuable asset. And we really need to spend more than $10,000 a year in capital improvements on our roads, yard maintenance. That needs to happen. Our town hall needs significant capital improvements, and we need to be budgeting or planning on how we're going to budget to make the needed repairs to the town hall. Same is true for the town garage.
And so I would suggest this. You have some very specific concerns there. I think in the second part of the meeting, we should address those.
But just getting the concerns on paper.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm fine. Okay, we are past time for concerns, so now let's go back. Yeah, we
If
can.
anyone
ask
has more
another point of
concerns, I would
clarification?
suggest you might take them.
I don't know that we'll ever get done this meeting if we don't pay attention to time.
Could we continue this meeting?
We may have to have another meeting, we'll find out. But what I'm trying to do is time box what we're doing here. And the other thing that I would impress upon people is, when we are speaking, let's try to remember what the objective here is. That is to get as many viewpoints as possible. So if, when you're speaking, if you can try to think about being as brief as possible to let other people have a say, that would be fantastic. Because we can't stay here for 10 hours, folks, right? We're trying to get the most we can out of this meeting. And I think we've got a great list to start with here. There's absolutely no question. And I'd like to get to these concerns in the next half hour if we can, and see where we land at the break. Okay.
Ask another quick clarifying question.
Yes.
So the whole budget's on the table again? Like,
Yes.
at the end of this meeting, the idea is that there's going to be basically a new direction for the budget committee, or are we drafting a new budget tonight?
So we're not drafting a budget tonight. We're taking feedback. Then the budget committee will go back and put together a budget, and we will then go to the select board with it on May 3rd.
And the select board will approve or not approve it or make changes.
Right.
And then we vote first about whether we're setting our own budget.
Yes.
We vote on this new budget.
Yes, if and only if. If and only if.
But
we
then
rescind.
if we vote to rescind the first budget, then there could be a whole nother conversation that opens everything back up again.
We redo town meeting,
We redo
Article
town
6.
And does that include the library line item? No, that's a
No, it
separate.
doesn't.
all those,
Special articles
those
are-
little special articles.
Special articles are exempt.
Yes, this is just Article
At
6.
least, out of time, understanding concerns is where we are, and we have until 6.
Yep.
And I have it
Yep.
at 25.
Yeah.
Oh,
So here we go.
okay.
All right, so, let's see, Sam had 1, 2, 3, 4, the first 5, right? Did you have the first 5 on this list? I think.
Yeah.
All right, is there, so I'm gonna try to summarize what you said, okay? It's very obvious that there wasn't a clear and broad understanding of the current town office book budget. That much is true. There are many differing opinions on how many people we need in the town office, what those positions were doing, etc. So that is up and down, number one. Number two, I do not know, but I sense that in the past, there might not have been optimum level of involvement with the town office staff as to what they needed for staffing in the next budget. I'm saying that because I don't know. But I'm sensing that maybe there wasn't a small subgroup meeting that said, hey, what do we need to run the town office next year? What is it? Let's put it together and let's go to the select board with it. De-staffing knowledge, obviously, if we've got a person who's been working budgeted for 26 hours a week, who's doing a lot of work, and is now probably leaving if we're only offering that position at 8 hours, we're going to lose some knowledge, right? And as Steve said, we're going to have wasted money as well. I'm not sure I understand number 4, but maybe that comes into play with the town administrator as well. Okay, we're not going to talk about that now. I'd like to defer that to the second half of the meeting because it'll make more sense when we talk about the budget and numbers. Okay, and transparency. Maybe you can just chat about that a little bit, Sam, transparency.
I don't think there was a lot of knowledge around, like I don't think a lot of people knew what was happening with, so in like the town report, it didn't say, hey, so unless you were in the meetings, I feel like you didn't really know what was happening. So I'm pretty involved with the town, so I'm a part-time lister, I'm on the budget committee, and I try to be involved with going to select board meetings or watching the recording. So I feel like I kind of have an advantage of knowing what's going on, but I don't think your average person does. I think some people don't have front porch forum. I really like the Australian ballot idea, so I feel like we're kind of missing some people. It wasn't in the town report. We're missing the assistant town clerk. She's going to kind of be gone. I feel like not everyone understood that. That's a big part of it. Me personally, and I don't think this was other petitioners' concern. My concern was a conflict of interest. And that's just something I saw from being in the meetings. But I don't think that is a lot of the other petitioners' concerns.
Okay.
I don't think that's just something they're aware of.
Can you explain what you mean by conflict of interest?
So in a budget committee meeting, I want to say it was December 16th, 2025, Zara Vincent is on the select board. She had mentioned throwing her hat in the ring for the town administrator, but she did not recuse herself from having influence over that position. And that was a concern of mine. So for me, her continuing to be involved with that position, it was looking like she was creating a position for herself. So me personally, as a voter, it didn't sit well with me. But I don't think your average person knew that.
So Sam, I think, and then I'll go to Travis in a minute. So Sam, I think what I'm hearing is you felt that based on Zara's statement in the budget committee meeting, that she should have recused herself from the creation of what is now a pretty robust job description for the town administrator.
I think if there was interest, I think if she's interested in the position, she should recuse herself because it's a conflict of interest. That's the right thing to do.
Okay. Travis?
The word transparency, I'm stuck on because you just said this was admitted in an open public meeting. So that's as transparent as it gets. Like Zara admitted it, it's on the record, she shared it. Like, just choose a different adjective because that is transparency. She didn't admit it to somebody behind the scenes, it was on the record. And two, I heard from Liz, I think, at a meeting, that they have been discussing this town administrator for years, well before Zara got here.
Mm-hmm. It had actually become a running joke. I'm not kidding. Yeah. Hang on, Steve, I just want to make this one clarifying comment. So maybe this item might well be more conflict of interest than transparency. Because I think that's at the root of it. But you felt there was a conflict of interest that was not acknowledged.
Right, I think if we came out, like if it was in the town report that we are getting rid of Brenda's position, it wasn't in the town report. So you didn't know about it unless you were, so people look at the town report and they read through it and they rely on that information when they go to town meeting day. So if it's not there, and they learn about it when they're physically here, I don't think that's being transparent.
Okay, that's a very good point, because I will acknowledge when I issued the front porch forum on the 11.6% budget increase, and I broke it down into 4 or 5 sections. In the staffing section, I don't believe I ever mentioned that we were reducing the role of the assistant clerk / bookkeeper. So I agree with you. Elias.
I just think I'm hearing two issues there. There's the conflict of interest is one, and the other is the transparency, as you've labeled it, but to me that speaks to the general challenge we have, getting the information about what's happening in town out to everyone. Front porch forum helps for a subset of our population, but not for everybody, and it's not a perfect way to communicate. So, yeah.
Well, Steve was up first, and then I'll go to Matt.
So if we were being totally transparent, right, we send a nice book out to every resident in town. So what the transparent thing would have been to do was to say that Zara planned on putting her hat in the ring, and then an hour later turned around to the select board meeting and started help building and critiquing and designing the position that she was planning on putting in for potentially. That's a direct conflict of interest. So if the town was being transparent about that, the select board member was helping create a position that they had an interest in applying for, it would have been notified in the book that we sent to every single resident so that they were all aware of it. Not for the, 8 people that might watch a budget committee meeting and then the 4 people that would turn around and watch a select board meeting. That's not transparent in my mind.
I agree, absolutely.
Matt.
So, forgive me, Cheryl, for putting you on the spot. I'm curious, because I think we could actually get information here. You wrote the town clerk report and the treasurer. I know you're overworked. In no way am I saying, hey, you easily could have included it, but is there any reason you didn't include any of the staffing changes there?
saying.
Cooks to kitchen.
Cooks to- so just-
and
But you didn't feel like it was important to include the clerk?
I didn't feel like it was my job,
Okay.
if that's, I mean, Mark was handling a lot of that stuff. You were putting, you made a whole website.
Where I certainly do mention that we're eliminating.
Right, so you know what I mean, so you made the website, you know, I put in whatever.
This wasn't in a way an attack, I was trying to
No,
just
I get
understand.
it, I get it, but it wasn't, I just felt like it wasn't my deal.
And I guess what I would add to that is that it's not as if the select board or the budget committee reports are the only place that those could be included. There are other places.
Right.
And the assistant town clerk is the town clerk.
Dorinda?
I'm wondering if there's some, I don't believe the town administrator position was eliminated, the assistant clerk position. That was created to the town administrator position, and the way I understood it was to take back over the select board assistant job that Sarah was originally doing, and then it got put on to essentially Liz doing it. And so that was eliminated, that was freeing up those extra 16 hours of time that was devoted to the town clerk position. So I don't think it's fair to say the administrative time was eliminated, the assistant time.
So, I want to respond to that because, again, through the listening sessions that I have been a part of, I do think that I have a pretty good perspective on the town office staffing and the town administrator. And I do think that one of the misconceptions early on with the budget and the petition situation was the collapsing of these two concepts. When I stepped back and did some analysis and talked to Dorinda and talked to Liz and sat down with the town office folks, they're really two separate, I'm not going to call them issues, but they're two separate items that we should discuss in the second half of this meeting. Because I do want to share, the current budget. I know that Dexter has thankfully given us a fair amount of information, but I just wanted to share the current budget versus the future budget and how those numbers look outside of the new town administrator position. Because I think there is a general misconception that the town administrative position was created to take work away from the town office. That was not the intent in any way. But it may have been unfortunately miscommunicated at times, and it may have been stuck in folks' mind that that's what it was. But I can assure you, as someone who wanted the town administrative position and pushed for it, because the joke used to be, oh, where's that grant manager we thought we were going to hire 5 years ago? Oh, we haven't done that. Well, we'll do that next year, or we'll find somebody to shoehorn to do it. And, meanwhile, grant opportunities are gone by the board. So we'll talk about that more in the second half of the meeting, but thank you, Dorinda, for bringing that up. Travis.
Just a request of everybody, especially our unpaid elected officials. Like, we all just went through a shitstorm with the floods. We were $9 million in debt, and we're coming out the other side of it, thank God. And a lot of these people that we're talking about got us here. So can we give them some grace? Like, everybody? I don't think anyone's doing anything intentionally. I don't think there's any massive conflict of interest. It's just people, more information should have got out, but it wasn't malicious. People are just overworked, So that's just a request for grace.
I don't know that, I don't spend a lot of time in the town office except on the third Tuesday of every month. And so I have no idea what stress people in the town office were under in the 2023 and 2024 floods. And I can't even begin to imagine it. I can't even begin to imagine it. So thank you for that comment, Travis, appreciate it. So we've gotten to most of it, I wanna keep these for the second half because they're very specific to the budget. And do we have anything on the second sheet that we haven't gone to?
No, that's this.
Okay, all right. So if we have no more comments about this, oh, we do, yes.
One more.
And your name?
My name is Cindy Griffith.
Hi, Cindy.
And what I'd love is to have an opportunity, perhaps after the next vote, for a group to get together to talk about how this doesn't happen again. I think that it was, there was a number of us there at town meeting, and we heard, we listened, we voted, and it just feels odd that here we are again. And what I'm fearful is that very few people will show up at the next meeting, and then the whole again isn't represented. So, regardless of where the fault is, communication or whatever, it would just be really nice if we could really assess the whole thing and start fresh next year.
Oh, you've hit a perfect spot, because Susan and I had a conversation a few Fridays ago about this exact thing, that after all is said and done, it would be nice to get together with the key stakeholders and moderate what I would call a lessons learned meeting, so that, knowing what we know at the end, when this is over, what could we have done differently to avoid what happened?
I mean, it may be even just meeting with all the department
Yes.
heads and so on and say, all right, I have a form to fill out. And then they're all acknowledged, everybody's heard, and then make sure that it's communicated well, not through Front Porch Forum, heaven's best, but, communicated well with people.
I think it is clear, at least to me, and I think it is to some others in town government, that it would be well worth our time to review the budget process and find out how to improve it, particularly around communication, well before town meeting day. We tried that this year, yes, Susan?
Well, I just want to build on that. You're talking about the budget process. How can we not get here again in terms of the budget process where people are like, wait a second, what? What? We just did what?
Yes.
And I would love to also have that same conversation about the town meeting process. Because we've got a couple of folks here who are just like, this was not for me. The way we decide things about this is not right. Maybe with the idea that the only alternative is to switch to ballot. And we certainly could switch to ballot, but there's so many other cool things we could do as well. Like, yes, maybe we switch to ballot, but we also have a really cool pre-meeting where that is empowered. Maybe there's meetings, a couple meetings throughout the year that lead into that. Maybe there are ways that we can make, when we do get together, that we can make it better, like using clickers to vote instead of raising our hands. I mean, there's some really cool innovations out there. And I would love to take this opportunity to make this whole thing better. Because just as like that, we did it during COVID, nothing changed. Everything bad. But we didn't hear each other.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we do both and? How can we get the quantity and the quality? I would love to think about that really constructively. Really exciting.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, if we have no other comments at this time, we can take our break early. Okay? It's break time.
Great. When are we starting back up?
We'll be starting back up, I would say in about 10 minutes, 5 after 6. Okay, thanks, folks.
We had a seat. Sam's just did the same thing.
Did we move over? You want to sit?
Just like a colony. Where are you sitting? Vic, you can come sit next to me.
Okay, since we're ahead of schedule, we're going to take about 15 minutes and do an exercise. And that is, I'm going to ask folks, we have a current budget, I can't remember, it's 2.26 million or something like that. I'm looking at Dorinda because she always helps me. I know, I didn't bring it, but it's like 2.26 million and change, okay? 11.6% budget increase.
Sorry, Mike.
Oh, that's okay. It's okay.
Are you saying 2.26 is the,
Million.
that's what was proposed?
Yeah, that's what's been approved.
Yes.
Yep, approved. It's a little higher with special articles, but before special articles, I think it's 2.62 or something, 2.262, something like that. So I just want to review what that contains, right? Because we need to talk a little bit about numbers. So I'll give you a brief overview of that. And then I'd like to do an exercise where folks just tell us whether they want the new budget to be the same, higher, or lower, and why. Again, just a brief description, just a brief, and then we'll go back over those. Because we still have to go over Dexter's, because these are pretty specific. So anyway, the current approved budget. Let's talk about the town office for a minute, because that's something everybody's interested in. So the current budget that we're in until June 30th for the town office has 20 hours for the clerk, 20 hours for the treasurer, and 26 hours for the combo, I call it the hybrid.
No.
The current budget.
Oh,
Current,
this year.
fiscal year 26, okay? I know,
Right.
I'm sorry, I confuse people sometimes. All right, so here we go. The current budget we're in until the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th, this is weekly numbers now, okay? So it's 20 hours for the clerk, 20 hours for the treasurer, 26 hours for a combo position, which is assistant clerk / bookkeeper. So I add them all up in my head, without counting them, that's 66 hours. Okay? So 66 hours a week in the current budget. Now, mind you, right now people are working more than that, because we have a new town clerk, and we're ramping up, and there's a lot of work, okay? Fiscal year 27 budget that's been approved, the numbers look like 32 hours a week for the clerk.
Can I just, let me make sure we've got,
Oh, I'm sorry, am I going too fast?
So this is our current budget, right?
Yep.
It's July through December of 25 and January through June of 26.
Yes,
And the hours are
20 clerk, 20 treasurer, and 26 the combo person, who will
assistant.
remain nameless.
Thank you.
Okay, so 66 hours. A week. The new budget that we approved on March 3rd is 32 hours for the clerk, 32 hours for the treasurer, and 8 hours for the assistant clerk. So it's really 72 hours in the town office. So it actually is slightly more than we have currently budgeted, but it is distributed quite differently. Yes.
The assistant currently is 32 hours, not 26.
Yeah, it is.
It's 32 hours.
In the budget? It's
Yes.
not in the budget.
I'm pretty sure it
Yes,
is.
it's 32 hours.
I don't believe it is.
I'll pull up the previous town.
I think it's 26. Sometimes I'm wrong, but let's just assume it's 26 for now until we get some of
He's
it.
really gonna feel good if all three of us are wrong.
If that's the case, the
So,
assistant should
okay.
be getting benefits.
So, pardon?
If that's the case, the assistant wouldn't be eligible for
Yeah.
benefits.
They actually are eligible for 24-hour.
Only
Yeah.
for Venus, not for health insurance.
Okay. All right, so we'll get there, we'll get there, but let's just assume, for the moment, these are the numbers, okay? The new budget has a new position called the town administrator, that's 40 hours a week. So really the town office, if you will, is really 112 hours a week of work, okay? In the new budget, the fiscal year 27 budget. Okay, so that was the big staffing change.
So can I ask a point
Yes.
of order? I'm not Robert, I'm Robert.
Can I propose we use the same, like, groupings as any town report to avoid confusion?
And
So
what
we
do
have
we-
administration, which is where we put the town.
Oh,
administrator.
right, okay,
Because
thank you.
otherwise we're gonna,
Thank you, okay. So the town administrator is up in administration. These three positions are down in
town.
general government. We call it
Depends on
general
the year,
government,
I'm not
something
sure
like
which
that.
one.
You have FEMA coordinator too.
Okay, hang on, yeah, hang on, that's, so somebody had a question.
Bring it back up.
I was just making sure I understood
Yeah.
the breakdown.
Right, so that staffing was about, I don't know, 3.5% of the budget increase. It was just that staffing change, okay? Yes,
I was just curious about, didn't we at some point have a select board assistant position that was paid?
we did.
And is that no longer?
So I can't really answer that, maybe Dorinda can. Select board assistant?
Yeah, so when Sarah was here, her hours were divided, for 32 hours a week, were divided 51% for the select board assistant and 49% for town clerk. So essentially, we're talking 16 hours and 16 hours.
Okay, yeah, it gets a little confusing. I think we budgeted on and off, select board assistant, and when we couldn't get one, we got a minute taker. I think the current budget, we wanted to get somebody, but we couldn't. And then we have a minute taker instead for, I don't know, 300 hours a year or something.
I think it came up to like $3,200.
Yes, okay, yes.
And so is that role, that job of the assistant to the select board, is that wrapped into one of the positions that we voted on in March?
Town administrator.
Town administrator, so that they'll support the select board and do
Yeah.
many other things.
That was the plan, yes. There's a big, I shouldn't say, big's not a great word. There's a comprehensive job description for the town administrator. I don't know if it's public on the site yet, or
It's on
No.
front porch today.
Everything, the meeting was on the,
It was posted today.
it was posted.
okay, great.
Is it the one that they siphoned from Worcester?
No, this was one that they used some of the town administrator job description from Callis, and I was there for the interview with the town manager, Carrie Bradley from Callis, and their town manager does some duties that are different than what we wanted our town manager to do. Our town administrator, I'm sorry, don't ignore town manager, that gets us into legal trouble. So I will say this, of the 18 towns that were similar to, that we looked at when we created wage bands last year, which we were required to by Vermont law by July 1st of 2025, when we, I can't remember the word, jobs, when we put them in the paper. Advertise, thank you. When we advertise jobs, we're required to show a wage band. So we looked at 18 towns similar to us in size, again, population between 1,500 and 2,000 people. And 7 of those towns already have town administrators. 5 of them are full-time, and 2 of them are part-time. And that's how we came up with the $72,800 figure for salary. It was the median figure in those towns. So in other words, some people were paid higher, some people were paid lower. We thought median was a better figure than average. Because an average, if you have an outlier, can sort of cover up some deficiencies. Richard?
Question. Did you do the same for all the jobs or just the town administrator?
All the jobs. We had
All
to.
the jobs.
We were required to.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So we looked at, and I'll get to you in a moment, Travis. So we looked at not only towns, those 18 towns, we also looked at statewide. So we compared ourselves to the state, and we compared ourselves to those towns. Yes, Matt? And then we'll go to
Just really
Travis.
quickly, since I put those numbers together, our statewide tend to be much lower than our current salaries in this town. Central Vermont tends to be a bit higher. So that was one of the reasons for having this 18. And on average, we were right around the median. Our road crew was actually underpaid compared to those, but we put the 18, we set the bands based on those 18, but we also absolutely compared it to what the state was. And I didn't broke it out into median, 25th percentile, 75th percentile. Send that information. But definitely something we looked close at for all.
Hang on for a minute. Travis?
Just a suggestion to sort of survive all this.
Yes.
Is maybe if we all just agreed that we are trying to come up with a budget that gets us through the next year, that we can change anything we want in the next year when we'll have time, because you guys meet in the fall, right?
We do, we
budget.
start
So,
in
like 6
October,
months.
November to put this together,
Yeah,
yes.
so we're trying to undo 6 months' worth of work. It's just not gonna happen. But we can make changes, but we would probably come to a consensus much easier if we all understand, like, this is just to survive the next year. The budget process can start up again, and anyone that wants to be involved can be involved.
Yeah, but you set a precedence when you do that.
Well, what's
Because
the
if they slide
alternative?
stuff through
Because
this
this
year.
process takes 6 months.
Yeah, if they slide it through without the people catching it, what are they gonna grab next year?
I don't understand. The point is, if we want to be involved, we have to
Okay,
show up.
if this had been on an Australian ballot, I almost would put money on it that it wouldn't have gone through.
Well, I feel for you, and I'd be happy to have all Australian ballots, but we're stuck with the law. So we can either go to the state and change the law at the state level, or we can get enough people to show up to town meeting to change the law.
Okay,
But we can't. Like, we're just stuck with it.
all right, Steve,
What were the determining factors for the 18 towns that you decided to pick? Like, how did you pick those 18 towns? Did you just cherry pick 18 towns, or did you use some type of like?
The criteria was as close to central Vermont as possible. You mentioned the population was between 1,500 and 2,000. And then we tried to also tie it to similar median incomes. So like if a town has a very low income like Calais, their pay would tend to be lower. If they had really high, I think Warren looks similar to us, but they've got Sugar Bush, so they tend to be higher, much higher. So it was that sort of range.
Okay, so staffing was about 3.5%, healthcare was about 3.2%, public works was about 3.7% because, we have to get sand from Barrett, so that was 75,000 we had to add to the budget for that. And then legal fees because of the 6-box culverts that are adjacent to wetlands, and we have to go through that process with the Agency of National Resources. So we need legal fees in case we need to maneuver through that process. So that was another, I think, 1.1% increase. So all those combined sort of added up to 11.6%. And so the intent for residents was to present that 11.6% increase in as, I would say, as small amount of changes and as simple a process as possible. And that's why we started doing the front porch forum hosts in early January, as soon as the budget was approved by the select board.
We did
That's
before
when,
they-
pardon?
We posted it before it was.
Oh, we did, okay, yeah, you're right. And so, again, trying to, because we knew it was gonna be a big increase, right? Yes, Beth?
So again, I feel like I'm walking through a forest and I don't understand what the trees are. So I'm sorry to keep asking the same sort of questions, but, so I see that we had about, depending on whether it's 32 or 26 for the assistant factor, 60 to 72 hours of administrative firepower in our town clerk's office. And we basically close to doubled it or so with the new budget, right? Do I understand that?
You do, but they're in different categories.
I get the categories, but.
But still, I will say this, to run the town,
Yeah.
we're not gonna talk about run the roads, we're gonna talk about just run the town, yes. We've
So
almost
then,
doubled,
the folks who did the petition, were you upset that we doubled our sort of running the town budget without more sort of flagging that for the community? Is that the rub? No, that's not the rub.
And,
What's the rub?
and somebody on Zoom is trying to talk.
I'm sorry?
Somebody on Zoom is trying to answer that.
Okay.
Go ahead, who is that on Zoom? I think it's just background noise.
Okay, Shelley.
Well, I think you might have rolled me directly on Front Porch Forum, and I might have answered you that.
I didn't write anything on Front Porch
You didn't?
Forum.
Okay, so it was somebody else. You look familiar. But the reason I had started it, just for background, and Susan and I had already talked about this, is because the article was just for the budget, okay? So when the first time I found out that the assistant town clerk, and because I'm in the town often, I see how they're overloaded with work. And I see how much the assistant town clerk does for the town. That's the face you meet when you come in, because we've got some new being trained, and poor Cheryl's getting caught up with all her workload. And me as a lister, we were backlogged 6 months, and we have our April 1st deadline that has to get done, or you won't get a tax bill, because we bring in the revenue.
That would be okay with me.
Okay, so that's just in the background. But, so,
Just kidding, I love
what I saw, and I didn't see it until just before the town meeting, which I know now that October, I will be involved from now on for the budget and try to get people involved also, that we were losing a body that has experience, that was also going to be training our new town clerk. And not that we didn't need a town administrator, but my thought at the time was, we already have a body there. Why can't we keep the 3 bodies, the 2 we have and the new one, and see if we can get the same amount of work done, table this for a year, and see if we can help the select board, help the town offices run smooth with what we have with less money. And during the town meeting, because it wasn't in the article, and it wasn't referenced when Mr. Coons tried to amend the article, I tried to speak, had my hand raised, but I think everybody else was trying to do the same thing. And Susan was trying to call on everybody. They closed that part of the article. And I might have referenced it wrong in Front Porch Forum afterwards because I was a little upset. But after they closed it, they brought up another part of an article, which was the road commissioner. And I tried to re-bring it back up, and she asked if I wanted to amend it again. And I said yes, but I had to wait. But after that one got done, it was then closed for discussion, so I couldn't. So I just, because I'm so involved with all the select board meetings, I didn't think the town had a fair vote. So that's why I did the first petition and didn't reference the whole article, because I didn't want to throw out the budget after the town worked so hard for the budget. So I referenced just that portion of it, so it could bring it back up for discussion. And talking to the state of Vermont, Secretary of State, they said it was vague and that it might go through, that I should have a lawyer involved, and I didn't because I didn't want to throw the budget out. It got thrown out by the select board, so that's why a second one was written by a lawyer, and it threw the budget out, and that's why we're here. So that kind of the whole background of why we're here tonight.
Okay, I have follow-up questions. I hope that's okay to try to ask them. So I still don't understand. We seem to be increasing capacity in the office. And that seems to also be what your concern is, that there's too much work for the folks in the office. So I still don't understand the problem.
When I first started the whole petition, it was, let's try it with 3 and see if it works out. Well, I think since this has evolved, I think he's talked to the folks, I think the select board's talked, I knew everybody was overworked. I mean, the select.
So isn't this
and I think that's what he's they're trying to work out now, is maybe 3 isn't gonna work. Maybe we need more bodies. And I'm just saying, when I first started this.
We don't have 4 current.
Well, we're gonna have 4.
They
In the
want
budget,
4
that's
current.
voted on.
Well, we're about 1 in 4, but the.
We could, so time out, folks.
So we
Okay.
added,
So
I don't understand why it's so hard for me to understand, but it
Okay.
seems like we're adding to.
So, again, I think we want to separate 2 things. We want to separate 2 things. We want to separate the town office.
So it's an individual line item.
Excuse me. I just want to clarify for everybody, okay? We want to keep the town office staffing separate from the town administrator for a moment. And if we do that, I think it becomes clearer for everybody. When we talk to the town office folks, that's the clerk, the treasurer, the assistant clerk, it's clear that they're overworked. So even though we have more hours just for those 3 people, they're not distributed well. In other words, they don't feel that a 32, 32, and 8 is going to get the job done in the town office in the next budget year.
Can I ask a follow-up question about that?
Yes.
Like, I have a lot more experience in understanding at the school budget.
Yes.
Than I do with the town budget. The school budget, when we vote on this as our merged district, the school board then has the ability to move things around within the budget as
Yes.
they see fit.
Yes.
Is that not true of the town budget?
That is correct. It is true.
So if those 3 folks in the clerk's office are concerned that the distribution of those hours isn't quite right, given their job descriptions and their capacities and
Mhm.
skills, wouldn't that be something the select board could just tackle? And then we still have our new administrative position to help with the workload.
I'll answer that this way. If Article 1 on May 9th does not pass, in other words, the current budget stays, the select board has the ability to move numbers around.
They have that ability right now, though.
They do.
Well, they're
They do.
currently doing it right now,
Yes.
because my position is only budgeted for a certain number of hours, and I'm currently working more than that, and they're paying for that.
So
So,
you're getting paid
well,
more.
we're already over this year's budget, so
Yeah,
it's
and-
complicated.
And your question is very relevant because whatever budget we come up with, the select board has the ability to use those monies as they see fit.
And we voted for them to give them that responsibility so that we don't have to deal with
Yes,
every line.
exactly. So we don't have to deal with the headaches. Exactly. Yeah.
So I think, one thing I think is helpful to keep in mind is that the select board are elected, and they all operate as a group. The town clerk is elected, and the town clerk has their responsibilities. And, they're separate, there's separate responsibility, and it's the same for the treasurer. So I think one of the things entering into the conversation is, okay, is this town administrator, how much of it is, they're reporting to the select board, if someone needs more work from the clerk or the treasurer office, how easy would it actually be, and how reasonable is it to expect that necessary work that needs to get done there is picked up by another sort of reporting structure? That's one question.
Bridget?
Can I just add one thing? When I initially started, I was not fully, even though I had been attending meetings for about a couple of months as the person who was considering running. So in the meetings, the budget committee and the select board discussed the staffing. They talked about it a lot. At the same time, I don't think I fully understood how their decisions were going to be impacting the office in the day-to-day. So I did not say anything in the meetings about what was happening with Brenda's hours, the assistant clerk hours being brought down. I wasn't aware of the impact. I think a lot of us might not have been. So I started the job, and I was being trained by Brenda and Cheryl, and continue to be. And the petition was put forward in order to maintain the level of work, as Steve said, that we had invested in as a town, because the listers are struggling with a deadline, and we were looking at an audit, and so Cheryl was working on something separately, and Brenda was,
Say the people's roles.
so Cheryl's the treasurer, okay, and Brenda's the assistant clerk, and I'm the newly elected town clerk, so I've been on the job a couple months now. And so everybody's trying to train me, and I don't know if you've ever been in a training situation, that kind of adds to everybody's workload, it doesn't actually take anything away. So we've fallen into a, you come into work and you do what is in front of you, and you leave at the end of the day with a huge pile that didn't get done. And that's on top of a backlog that's already there, and this is in no way complaining. This is my professional position as a business owner, as an administrator. It's not great for staff morale. So then you're in a position where Brenda resigns, and now it's just going to be me and Cheryl. We've got the petition, and those within the office walls we were very clear about the fact that we need help on the day-to-day. So, and like Steve says, it's an investment. I think that at that stage I went on to Front Porch Forum, and I'm like, okay guys, it's either or, town administrator or assistant, and I'm on the side of assistant, and I've since changed my mind. I actually would like to see four positions. I don't think we, like Dorinda has mentioned, the overlap is challenging because if one person sprains their ankle jumping out of a whatever, that diminishes capacity a lot. And so with Cheryl being treasurer and clerk, Dorinda just mentioned that if anything happened to Cheryl, we would have been, SOL. And then, so initially I was like, you guys, 3 people, we can do it, yeah. Now I'm I'm very much in favor of a town administrator at 32 hours with full benefits, a treasurer at 32 hours with full benefits, an assistant clerk at 32 hours with full benefits, and that I, as the clerk, diminish the hours so that I am traditionally what Sarah was doing. And then we put my dollar amount in at, I think it was 16 at.
Without the select board support part of Sarah's job? Or with that?
I'm only the town clerk, Cheryl's only the treasurer, Brenda's only the assistant treasurer, and there's a new town administrator in July.
So you're saying your position would be back down to 16 hours?
I am fully in favor of my position going no bennies back down to 16 hours. We would save money. I think it's the best option for the town. I think that we've made an investment with the people who are already here, and I'm the weakest link. And so, first last hired, first fired kind of thing. So I think the town clerk goes back to 16 hours. That frees up money there. And when we roll those numbers out, we get an increase that's along the lines of $50,000.
And just a point of clarification, the select board could make all those changes without.
Can I just
voting on
finish?
the budget, right?
I'm just going to finish. I'm ADHD, so I have to get all the way to the sentence, to the period. So if we were to go that option, it would be about 50 grand. That would be over what we passed on March 3rd. And then we would divide that among the 933. So that means that there would be, depending on what your house value is, anywhere from 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 to $60 per house, tax-paying household for that year. And I walked in here going, you guys, the budget's gonna go up 7% next year. My boys are gonna own 2 houses on Upper Sunnybrook Road. I'm not gonna saddle 30-year-olds with an increased tax bill that never goes down. And now I look at the work that needs to be done at the town. We've had 2 floods. It's not typical. It's not oranges to oranges from what we were dealing with before to where we are now. And I think that those dollar amounts are manageable. We're not talking like, it's $40 to $50 to $60 per tax-paying household to have. The town administrator is currently at 40 hours, so we would bring them down to 32 hours, so there's cost savings there. I'm at 32 hours, we bring me down to 16, and again, it's about 50 grand.
And so my question about those changes could be made by the select board without rescinding our current budget, is that?
No, it's not good.
The line item?
Because of they could, but the intent is, it's important to follow your intent. I mean, the select board can choose to spend money anywhere they want to, because that's their authority. But you have to follow as a responsible, ethical elected official, you have to follow the intent of what is put in front of the voting public. And so right now it's 32, 8, 40, let's say Matt's town administrator. So 32, 32, 32, so 32, 8, 40. I'm saying we go 32, 16, 32, 32.
Okay, I'm gonna recognize.
That I went over.
No, I'm gonna recognize Dorinda in a minute.
Okay.
But I wanna do a time check. We're almost at 25 of 7. We haven't gotten to this exercise yet, though I think Bridget may have done the first thing in this exercise, means we should increase the budget slightly and that's because she wants 4 people at certain hours.
And I want everybody to have their own role.
Right?
Yes, so
Okay.
that, like, if
So-
we do sprain an ankle.
I do not want to hold people after 7, but I'm not sure that we can get through the budget discussion in 25 minutes. So I just want to hear from folks, is there any flexibility staying beyond 7? I don't want to be here for another hour, but I think it's important that we get through this exercise so that the budget committee has enough for us to do something with next week. People okay with that?
Mark, you want to have a discussion about what people feel about upper,
Yes.
higher or lower,
Yes.
or same?
Yep, I do, because I think that's going to inform us as to what we need to be thinking about as we put together the alternate budget. So I guess we could start with Bridget. She wants a plus.
I'm not gonna put names.
Right.
I'll just put a tiny plus.
Yep. Yep.
He's get a little slack.
Okay. Dexter,
This is compared to what?
Right.
the current.
The current budget.
The 26 budget or the
No,
27?
no,
The 20, the one we just-
approved fiscal year
This one is on
27.
The ones that we passed in
Yes.
Right.
But
The
I'd be
2
willing to
point-
go down to
The
16 now.
2.262 million budget, and I forgot I didn't recognize you doing it.
I don't think Bridget, as nice as she's volunteering her hours, I don't think she legally can. She was elected as a full-time town clerk.
Okay.
So I would have to get a legal opinion on
Okay.
whether that really.
All right.
So it as it sounds, I don't think it's.
Okay.
legal. The other side of it is you have statutorily, you can't just say, I'm gonna work 16 hours a week, because you have to be
No.
available during elections, you have to be available.
But
for-
the difference is I would be charging for 16 hours a week. That doesn't mean I'm working 16 hours a week.
Okay, well, that's a different discussion.
Yeah.
That gets us back to the history of overworked people.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Right.
Right, I understand. Okay, other thoughts that we can put on the board, plus or minus or the same? Lowry, or somebody on? Hi, Bill.
If we have the 3 presently working, and we were unable to, we have basics we need to do for state rules, federal rules, and the running of this town. But there's no reason why not, if they're unable to find people offering for nothing to help. Why is it wrong to get the 4th person in and they start with the 32 across the board and give everybody a chance to see where we stand next year, because we've got the floods to work with, we've got all the stuff that we're trying to catch up on, and we need help showing it with the people and their consciousness of really going at the job now, why hurt ourselves. And the number 2 is, how long do you think it's gonna take to find a town administrator?
Yep.
There are 11 towns right now looking for it. I think last week I looked was 9. It's not a definite job. It's not gonna be filled July 2nd. And then we're gonna be back to 3 people, really 2. If they don't appropriate the time for the assistant.
Okay.
You're gonna be bombarded by a tremendous amount of work.
So, Bill, I think I understand completely. You're in the plus column.
Yes.
And you're saying plus column, 4 people. So we've got 2 plus column, we could just put 4 people over here for each of them.
For lower.
I'm sorry, that's, geez, put plus and 4 maybe, I don't know.
4 people?
Yeah, because both of these folks are talking about 4 people. Yes?
I have a question.
So if we had the 4 people, and I agree with Bill, that, you know, it might take some time to get that 4th person in.
Yep.
And I don't know, I don't know Brenda, I don't know Bridget, I don't know everybody, so, very objective about the whole thing. I do fear losing that experience. Would the idea be, if we had a town administrator, they would get grants and then our taxes might go down?
very good question, Jess. I can't really answer that. I can say that we need other revenue sources other than the property tax bills that are becoming bigger to help finance our town. So it is widely acknowledged by the select board and the budget committee that we have missed grant opportunities through the years. We don't know how many we've missed. We've had some folks who have been writing grants and gotten grants, but since we have not had a single point of accountability over grants, both state and federal, we have no idea. But we do believe that we can bring in more grant money than we're currently bringing in.
Mark, can I chime in on this? Just because I have like an anecdote that speaks very directly to this question.
That's Stacy, right? Stacy?
You're right. So this is your Stacy on MBC, one of the members of the select board. So you asked like, could there be money for us that is only accessible by a town administrator? And I'd say yes. It seems like there might be. There is a new program that went live January 1st. It's called CHIP, which stands for the Community and Housing Infrastructure Program. It's a statewide tax increment financing tool that's really aimed to help smaller scale Vermont communities unlock housing opportunities by investing in their public infrastructure. That can include water, roads, septic, sewer, you name it. And so I went to a CHIP workshop last week that was hosted by VLCT, and there were probably 10 or 12 people in there, and I was everybody else in that room was either a town manager, a town administrator, or a developer, somebody responsible for municipal development at a mid-sized town in Vermont. And I think for me, my takeaway from that was like, I did that, on my own free time, because I'm interested, and I think, the program has up to $2 billion available for municipalities, but you better get it or it's gone by 2035. That is a really small amount of time, for us to get our act together and grab some of that money. And so, there's no promises that any of this will be successful, but I think that sitting in the room last week where I was doing that on my lunch hour out of kind of just my own curiosity, it's like, wow, you need someone whose job is to learn about that money and figure out how we can get some. Because I think that's a huge opportunity for Middlesex given our size, scale, and infrastructure needs.
So, Stacy, thank you, number one, for mentioning that. I am aware of this program. It was discussed 2 or 3 weeks ago on Vermont This Week on Friday nights. And if anybody's been to St. Albans, which is one of the older towns in our state, if anybody was there 10 or 15 years ago and went there recently, it's a complete makeover. It's unbelievable what they've done with tax incremental financing. So,
I would say the same with Rutland.
Yes,
Rutland
yes.
is amazing. I connected with one of the aldermen, older lady, there too. And the tax incremental financing is a bit out of reach for us in our
Yes.
business, but CHIP is the program that was
Yep.
enacted and implemented for someone of our size.
And I think what Stacy's saying is, this is a perfect duty for a town administrator, because it needs a single focus for us to get a program like this off the ground. I'm sorry, Sam first, and I'll go to Matt. Do you want to add a plus minus here? Okay.
I just wanted to clarify, in the beginning, my feeling was in the minus. So my goal was to kind of bring the budget down. And that was when we were talking about 3 positions, and this is what I talked about kind of in the beginning, where it seems like we were talking more about roles in money, right? We were talking more about assistant town clerk and town administrator. That's how I was in the beginning. I just want to make sure that that's out there. I want to make sure that I
And
don't
just to-
speak for.
And just interject, I'm sorry, is that's when we were collapsing these roles, right? That's when there was not clarity.
Yes, so
Right,
I
okay.
just want to say in the beginning, that's kind of, that was my feelings. And I don't speak for every petitioner, I want to put that out there as well. This is just my thoughts. I think your main players here are the select board members and the staff in the office. So I feel like if the select board members and the staff in the office all feel that these 4 positions are needed, I do support that.
Okay, another thoughts? Matt?
Just as someone participating in the meeting on the budget, I would love to hear from people that aren't in the plus column.
Yep.
So just brought.
All right, so we'll start with Dexter and then we'll go to
Dexter,
Sean.
previously affiliated with the party of no, I would be
Yes.
on this column.
Okay.
And my explanation is sort of what I started out with, was that just the rate of budget increase over the long-term here is too much, and I'm not here. I can afford to pay my taxes. I can afford to move out of town. I would be much better off financially if I did, but I'm not going to, because I'm connected to my land, I'm connected to the people, and I'm connected to the mountains here. So that's why I'm still here.
Okay.
But I'm doing this for other people who aren't here.
Yes.
And who aren't
Great.
on Zoom, and who aren't on FPL, that are low income, that work, or probably work right now, and will be at work on Saturday most likely, when the town meeting goes.
Before I go to Sean, I should throw out a few more numbers, because I think context is important, right? I think I talked about at town meeting on March 3rd, that we're talking about a budget that impacts 1/4 of our tax bill. Okay, remember the school budget is the other 3/4. It generally runs 74–75% of our tax bill, and over that, we don't have as much control. This is...
You voted by Australian ballot, just want to say.
Yes, yes. And so I want to give you some context on the budget that was passed and what impact that's going to have on your tax bills. I'm going to use my tax bill as an example. Under the budget we're currently operating under, the fiscal year 26 budget that ends at the end of June, that increased my tax bill by $308. Okay? The new budget that we passed on March 3rd will increase. This is an estimate based on what I mentioned, the 5-cent increase to our municipal tax rate based on this budget, less anticipated revenues. The increase to my tax bill will be $158, almost half of what it was for this year. I'm not going to attach a value to that, but say, gee, with all the stuff we have in that budget, the increase in my tax bill is going to be almost half of what it was, a little over half of what it was last year. That's not a bad deal. It's not a bad deal.
What's your household income?
So my grand list is $316,000. So that's my appraised value, my grand list is 3162, multiply that by 5 cents, and you're going to get $158. So I was shocked, to say the least, when I calculated that and said, I wonder what the increase in my tax bill was this year. Oh, it was $308. So we're talking about a decrease of almost 50%.
So a small increase.
Right, exactly.
Decreasing increase.
We wanted to hear from Sean.
Yeah, can you turn it back to the 3 options?
Yes.
I was kind of hoping we could tie the 3 options to the other chart. In that, in looking at those, and just narrowing it to those 3 options, I like option C, in that you're not adding a 4th body that you have to pay medical and insurance for, which I believe is probably the majority of the 50 grand, the increase of having a 4th person would be. So if you increase the hours of 3 existing staff to each be 32, that's 96 versus, 112 I think was 4. We get what we want, I think that's enough hours in total.
Right. So, Sean, if I understand you, you're talking about 4 positions all at 32 hours.
3. We're giving 96 hours total.
Okay,
No time
No
okay,
administrative.
so,
And that would be tabled for next year, which I think is really the thrust of the petition is, hey, why are we doing this now? Why don't we see how option C works? Because it
So-
very well could work, and it would be cheaper.
so I want to go back and clarify again. There's a distinct difference between the town administrator position and the town office. And so when we sat with Cheryl and Brenda and Bridget, when Liz and I did last Friday, it was very clear to us that they're overworked. There's work to be done in the town office to, I'm going to call it catch up.
Right, but that has to do with the number of hours they have.
So actually, it's more than that. It's a historical problem. And I don't want to get into it in this meeting, but you can certainly chat with Cheryl offline. And I'll get to you in a moment, Steve. But I want to be very clear. If you don't want a town administrator this next year, we're in the same old movie. And that is, if a flood comes, one of these 3 people is going to be overworked. If we have something else that happens that falls from the sky and we can't predict the future, we're going to overwork these 3 people in the town office. Because what they're telling us, and I'm just going to looking at them to make sure I understand this. Just the current workload that we're doing in the town office, assuming we don't even have a town administrator, in our minds, these people are overworked and they need to have more hours. But they'll never be able to do a town administrator work, number one. Okay, and I understand where you're going. You want to save money.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure. So I'm going to ask Matt to talk about really how much we'd actually save if we pulled the town administrator.
Yeah, so it's a $30,000 difference. So when we did the actual analysis, and this is before adding these 4th hours or adding hours, when the select board, we presented 2 budgets, and Dorinda did a lot of work putting together the initial 2 versions. One was existing office, the FEMA coordinator, there's a bunch of positions in the budget that were zeroed out that would have to get added, because like we can't not have FEMA coordinator hours, then we won't get, the whatever, couple million bucks outstanding. So there's a bunch of things that would have to get added back in, and you end up saving about 30 grand. Now, I don't know.
What does the FEMA person do if there's not a flood?
Right now, we still have to do paperwork so that we get reimbursed.
Assuming that
So-
ends.
Why couldn't,
It's not, we had a project that haven't even cut ground yet. We're in the design phases on recovery from the 2023 work.
what about if, I'm just throwing this out there for discussion, because that's what this is, but if they deem it necessary to have an administrator, why don't you, I like option C the best, I really do. That makes perfect sense because that's the infrastructure of the town. Why don't we bring the town administrator in at 20 hours? Instead of making it a full-time position.
So the main reasons that have been discussed when we looked at this is that the town administrator is a skill set that requires, someone that's more difficult to hire for, and we do not expect to be able to hire someone part-time. The skill set's just not going to be available at that part-time.
Wow.
Steve?
So, 2 things. One, we already have somebody doing the FEMA stuff part-time, right?
Yeah, but it's not just
Okay.
FEMA stuff.
And then 2, if you have option C, where you have 32 hours for all 3 of the current positions, okay, and then you lower the assistant town clerk to 8 hours, even if you leave the treasurer and town clerk at 32 hours, and you give 40 hours to the town administrator, if they're gonna be doing the FEMA stuff, assisting the select board, and then going after grants, how are they a benefit to the rest of the administration work in the office at all at any level?
They're not, they weren't intended to be. That's why.
That's right.
Right, so now, that's my point though,
That's not
right?
true.
So we're removing somebody who's a benefit
Select
to the
board.
administration in the day-to-day in the office, to then pile more work on the 2 remaining people.
How is that a benefit to
So,
anybody?
so one thing I want to highlight, we went from part-time treasurer, part-time clerk in Sherwood, to
Right.
full-time clerk and full-time treasurer.
Right.
So that's where the.
And with all the flood stuff, we had a treasurer who was doing excellent work with an assistant at the time of the 23 flood hit, and they were both together overworked, keeping up with the paperwork. Right? So if we're reducing the administrative effective ability in the office on any level, I see that as destructive and throwing away an asset that we've already paid for, essentially throwing money out the window. I think the only thing that we need to do forward moving as a town is trying to create stability in the office, not instability, right? You're talking about eliminating a position essentially, and then taking potentially months to find the proper candidate, essentially crippling our town from an administrative perspective.
So
essentially
are you
months.
saying that you want to increase or decrease?
I think that we should be doing 32 hours for all 4 positions.
Okay.
But finding a way to fund the 4th position and sticking with option C for right now.
Okay.
Like we collectively as a town need to figure out how to get the additional money for that administrator position without crippling ourselves in our current capacity. Right? Like we can't put the horse before the cart.
I'm just
We
not
don't
clear.
know what's in the cart, right?
So for clarification, A, I think, is what we're currently at.
Correct.
That's
Right,
the new,
that's
July
what we're
first.
proposing. So
That's
that's
improved.
even.
That's
improved budget.
4 is
Budget
more.
is here.
Are we looking at?
Right, I'm looking at option C, where we're effectively strengthening our current administrative level. And I agree, as a town, we should be looking for a way to bring on a town administrator, but right now, doing that is crippling
I
ourselves
just got
and
confused because
throwing
we were
away
talking about a
investment.
20-hour position. That's all.
I just can't understand, what's the select board doing?
I don't think we want to have that discussion here. I think we'll be here all night. But we had someone, was Becca, did you have your hand up?
Sorry,
That was pretty quick.
Okay,
See
go
it, so
ahead.
I can stick them with
Go
it.
ahead.
I think one thing to note is that this is where we were, right, for the past, since I've been here. This is basically 2 people, this is one person's job and this is the second person's job. So we've been navigating for the past year here, 72 hours. We think it requires more hours than that. If we go to the new proposed budget, we are at the same number of hours. So this we are telling everybody is not okay. It's not good for the town, it's not good for the people working for the town. And what has been approved, same. The hours, how much each person is paid is a little different. But as far as the work that needs to be done, it doesn't matter how much the person is being paid to do that. There's more than 72 hours worth of work to do.
Can I just add one thing to Brenda's, is that I think with option C, there's an efficiency issue that is going to change the world in that office, that if you have a town clerk who is like, boom, this is my job. If you have an assistant town clerk who's like, boom, this is my job. Treasurer, Cheryl takes back all the bookkeeping. She's boom, all about the monies. And then you have the town administrator who's all about those other pieces. Then the efficiency is going to go through the roof, because right now we're all trying to do a little bit of everything. And for us, it's where's the pile, and have you been stamped? And so there's an efficiency question that I just want to throw in there. And again, I said I want the town administrator job in the very beginning because I thought, hey, 3 bodies, let's do it. I want to be just the town clerk.
Before I recognize Sean, I want to throw out some numbers, not to confuse people, again, to provide context for some of these options. So option C, which would be the 432, no?
330. Option C is 332, and then
A 40.
you have this as your option.
Okay,
So this.
Can we make that option D? Like,
Yeah.
option C only
Yeah.
has
So the biggest budget increase, right, the biggest increase to our budget would be keeping the town administrator and bumping up the assistant clerk from 8 to 32 hours. Right, that's basically what the change. That would basically be the change from the current budget is simply in the town office, adding 24 hours to the assistant clerk, okay? So that's what we would do. That option, whether we call it D, C, or C/D, is really the best of both worlds. It gives us a future direction for the town, with the town administrator that has been talk for 5 years, and it gives us a fully staffed office for the first time in I don't know how long, because I've only been on the budget committee for 6 years. If people want to know the total cost increase to the budget for that, I'll give you a number. Hang on there. I'll give you a number. It's $40,000. Okay? You want to know what that's going to be to your tax bill? The increase to your tax bill, the estimated increase will go from 5 cents to 6.7 cents on your tax bill. So if I were to run that on my taxes, so it's 6.7 times 3162, I don't know what that is, but it's still a heck of a lot lower than what I'm paying for an increase in the current tax bill, which again is amazing to me, but numbers are numbers. So that's the biggest increase to our budget would be this, okay? If we fully staff the office and we kept a fully staffed 40-an-hour-a-week town administrator, which was decided on April 7th, we would make exempt because, hey, if they have to work more than 40 hours, they're going to, and we're not going to pay them. Isn't that wonderful? So, and they'll do it because that's how exempt positions work, right? People work as many hours to get the job done, and they get paid the same rate every pay period. So
you get comp time though.
Not here. Not here. So that's the biggest nugget, folks. If we were to satisfy both desires, and that's why, well, I'll say we tried to put together a budget that would satisfy both of those. It's clear to most people that we have it. So if we want to do that, that gives us, I'll call it, running the office, people feeling comfortable with the hours they can work to dig out of backlog and get things right in the office, and it gives us a future direction to go get other things and have at least somebody, a single point of accountability if the sky caves in, which we do not have now. We are at risk, folks. We have another flood, just play that movie again, and somebody's going to quit. Guarantee it, because it's not an easy thing.
I gotta go.
Elias.
Can I cut in line? I gotta go.
Sure.
Just the 3 things. One, I did some math. We're debating $40,000. If we had not gotten FEMA reimbursements, we'd be looking at $500,000 in payments every year. The only reason we don't have that is because a marketing professional and somebody from our road crew did all our FEMA work for us. That's fucking luck. We don't deserve that luck. We just lucked out. All right? I am here because I want the town assistant position because of this guy. I think the only way I can stay in this town and have a house that he can someday live in when he's old is if we start preparing for our future a little better than we are. And the administrator does that. As far as the clerk staff, whatever that woman wants. That's where I'm at.
Okay, thank you, Travis. Elias.
I just, a quick comment about the administrator position. I think we've talked about how it would be, take on the duties of the FEMA and how it could do grants. Another piece that I heard at the select board meetings, and I don't think it's been said here, is that our current select board chair is putting in an incredible amount of volunteer hours to try to do the things of the town that we don't have any staff to do. And so this would be a position to actually do the job that the town needs, that right now we are just lucky enough to have people volunteer to do. And finally, we made out pretty well during these floods in terms of having people to do FEMA work, but we made some mistakes. Look at the money we budgeted for the culverts that we messed up on. you know, not having mistakes like that happen pays the whole bill.
So very good point, Linus. We're now at somewhere between, my eyes aren't that good, somewhere between 5 and 10 after 7. We can stay later if there are other comments folks want to make on the board, on the plus or minus. I think we've gotten some very good feedback. I'm sorry, Dexter, we'll go to you.
But just on the staffing thing, I'm not officially a member of the FIT team, which is the one looking at the town garage and the town hall issues. And it's been made very clear from town staff that there aren't enough seats in the existing town building. So I'm wondering where we would put a town administrator if we don't have seats enough for the current staff.
So I think there's a configuration that folks are looking at. Kevin Thompson is looking at on the FIT team.
Yeah, he's the one that says we don't have space for people.
Yeah,
So
but
there's-
he's got some,
He made a
Kevin has some, I'll say he has some
There's a proposal.
creative proposals to make it happen in the short term while we're still in the town hall. So I have faith in Kevin. He's a former contractor. He knows his stuff. He was at a budget meeting recently. I have full confidence that Kevin will be able to do whatever we need to do. Becca?
This is not about the perhaps you want me to hold it, but I've learned a lot from this conversation, so I really appreciate, now I understand the difference between the town administrator role and the clerks and treasurer's roles, so that's really helpful. I'm curious about process, and I don't know if this is the right place for this, but how was the original budget developed? And is the conversation we're having now a conversation that should have happened when that budget was being developed? And if it didn't happen then, can I understand why not? Or how does the budget usually get developed? This seems like a big oversight maybe, and how did that happen? Or
So-
maybe it wasn't oversight, maybe people's thoughts have changed,
Right.
in which case if people's thoughts have changed, that happens to all of us all the time, and I have a question, and I don't know the answer, this is a true genuine question, like, if things change from when we voted, do we reopen a vote, or do we wait till next year? It's a real question about Pandora's boxes and, you know, living with our decisions, and I don't know what the right answer is, but it's something that I'm really wrestling with here. And I would like to know more about the process and how this happened.
So I'll just say a few things that I think will cover the bases. I think there was confusion about the positions in the budget. And as a member of the budget committee, it might have been clear to me, it might have been clear to the members on the budget committee, it might have been clear to the select board, but it wasn't commonly understood what we were doing. So I think, as I have mentioned before, and Sam and I have had conversations, there was a collapsing of the town administrator and the town office staff when probably there shouldn't have been, but there wasn't, I would say, enough communication to conceptually to make people understand how different they were, number one. Because people had the best intentions of saving money by having town office people do town administrator duties, but that wasn't the intent of the budget committee or the select board. But it clearly wasn't communicated well. And so we're going to have a lessons learned after all this is done. And hopefully we won't have to go through this process again. We'll have a much more informed, gradual build-up to town meeting on the budget so that we have a lot more informed residents and we can vote accordingly and everybody feels heard.
Can I say something in the process just to add to it? So my understanding, and I think I saw this, but maybe for something different, the department heads do submit a budget number, and the treasurer's office, you know, takes and puts this together into an Excel. Now, it doesn't mean that what the budget that the select board sort of indicated they would approve would match exactly what those department heads were requested, but the budget committee facilitated this, collating all of the department head requests, presenting that to the select board, discussing with them, incorporating select board requests, and then the select board.
So can I ask a follow-up to that? So like, again, I know a lot more about the school budget, because that's where my energy has been of late. So principals submit a budget, and they decide what's best for each individual school, and they submit it to the superintendent, the school board, sorry, and they massage it into something everybody hates, and then they vote.
Yeah, which is how we do here, the compromise.
Yeah, so does that mean in this case that the town office department head is a town clerk? Who's the department?
There are two different offices, technically, town clerk and town treasurer.
Okay. So those two department heads said, this is what we think we need to the select board, and the select board said, gotcha, we're gonna massage and come up with a sausage that you may or may not like, or?
It's
This is
unclear.
a weakness I think we've discovered.
It's unclear.
Is that
It's unclear to us.
the town clerk and treasurers have not been traditionally treated as departments in themselves. And so we've met, as a budget committee, we've met with all the department heads, but the office has been dealt with a little differently. So I think we need to reach out next year, much more closely with the actual staff in the office. That to me is a clear weakness that came out of this, that we're seeing.
Dorinda?
As the person who put the budget together this year, we do follow what we have. There's expenses that are guaranteed, that we know what our insurance rates are going to increase. We know, things, bills that we have to pay, how much we have to pay to have our computer service, things like that. Then we look at electricity bills and gas bills, and we take an average of that. Then it's more or less, well, do you think we're going to need, so I think this year it was increased the office supplies because paper went up to $7 a ream. So there is discussion within those departments, but everything's an unknown. I mean, we just found out today, or this week, that the dental and vision insurance is going up another 2.7%. Well, our budget's done, So those are the things that crop up afterwards that you just don't know. You take your best guess and.
But I don't think the budget committee had say or control over the assistant clerk hours. So what I saw is that came down from the select board.
Yeah, it's a very good point.
We didn't go
Sam's
into
making a
it and
point.
say, hey, we're gonna do this. We didn't have any control over that. We get a lot of, from what I've seen, we get a lot of direction from the select board.
The budget committee does not look at staffing for the town office or the road crew because we don't have that expertise. We're only consulted really on what the merit increase is going to be for employees for the next budget year. That's sort of as deep as our knowledge goes. But again, we're going to relook at the budget process, and there's clearly some room for improvement. Victor, you wanted to say something?
We haven't said anything about how you could save by cutting this budget. Even tonight, if you cut the quote-unquote town administrator back to 32 hours from 40, you gotta save something there.
Yeah,
The road
I can
commissioner
tell you
gets
that.
$10,000.
So I can tell you the town administrator, if we did 32 across the board, the increase would be $27,000 and change to the budget, and the tax rate would increase by 9/10 of a penny.
That's
Okay.
fine, but then how about you got $10,000 or close to $10,000 on a road commissioner in there. That could be cut right out. And you've got
Yeah, that's $3,200 for the minute taker. If the town administrator's going to all the meetings, their job is now minute taking.
what's that? What's she say?
Oh, actually, didn't we change that?
Minute taker of select board.
Sorry.
We have like 300 hours attached to that. It's like $3,200, something like that.
Well, that was out of the budget. And
Right.
at the select board meeting, they added it back in.
Oh, right. Okay.
And then you got a pretty good number in there for trucking, and Eric says that they got to go to South Barrier.
Yes.
But, is that trucking figure, that's if you hire trucking. And I don't think that, you know, it is a cost, but it doesn't reflect that much as if the town, if they haul their own. If the town hauls its own stuff.
Oh, instead of having somebody else do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That came up and they didn't have enough help because of the work that's gotta be done this summer.
We
is
have to hire
what we
people, we
said.
have to, probably have equipment, costs.
It's now
That's my
7:16.
question is the sort of the process of being a big fan of democracy. I really like it. And I also love taxes, right? Which is, I'm in the minority, but I really love taxes. But I guess the confusion for me comes around, like, it seems like some mistakes were made in terms of, and I'm still not sure what they were, about how we got to this budget. But it is one that we did vote on together as a group.
And just for the record, there are people who don't think there were mistakes.
Okay, all right. So, like, we all might have gripes about something in the budget, but we did do the process, the work of voting on it and wrestling with it together.
But we're all past that.
Yes.
We're all past, that's
Past,
history.
and here we are.
But here we are, right, which is the thing where maybe we don't get to relitigate it, right?
But we
Like,
are.
We are.
That's why we just,
Okay,
That's what's happening.
So, no, I understand that's what's happening, and I guess maybe the point I'm making is we owe it to ourselves as a community to stick with what we decided.
I don't believe it.
And we can talk about it again next March, or when the budget process starts in October or September.
So the opportunity to do that, and then I'll recognize Brenda. The opportunity to do that will come May 9th
Right.
in Article 1. And again, we're gonna have a lessons learned at some point here, so that
Which
we
is
don't
very
have to go
important.
through this again. So that when we get to town meeting, whenever that is, I don't like it being on a Tuesday, but it's okay. Some towns have it on a Saturday, hint, hint. Anyway, when we get to the next town meeting, there'll be folks who are much more informed about what the budget contains and what it doesn't.
How
So
come we,
so
hang on.
I had one
Hang
more
on.
thing on that.
Hang on,
Okay.
Brenda.
I think two things come into play. One is the democracy that you talked about. Part of the democratic process is that if you have an issue with town meeting, you have tools available to you, and one of those is the petition.
Right.
Okay, so we did follow this democratic process that you're talking about, and under the law, it's not like you made your bed, now you have to lie in it. There are provisions in the law for when things need to be amended. So, you know, as a mom, I'm like, you made your bed, you lie in it. Like, I hear you, okay? The other thing I want to mention is that we've spent most of today talking about the budget, but there is also issues with the transparency. And so if it wasn't transparent, then that democratic process wasn't clear. And so those are the two reasons I think that we're going back to revisit an issue that has already been decided once.
Thank you, Brenda, for that clarification. Victor, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, there's some many other things in that budget you can do. One of the big things is to have the employees pay part of their health insurance.
So it's a very good point. I come from the corporate world, not the public
Right.
sector, where
Right.
employees paid a certain percent. But I think that's something to talk about next year.
Right.
But again, right, things are on the table because the cost of healthcare continues to increase substantially. So it's a
We
good
all
point.
have to pay part of our own.
I know. It's a good point.
I mean, even
So-
if you're retired.
Yes, as I am, yes.
Right.
Medicare is not cheap.
Right.
Anybody who thinks once they get to
Supplemental's not cheap either.
Medicare, they're gonna be fine, no. I'm sorry, Matt, yes.
No, that's fine. I, as as a member of the budget committee, I want to say, I don't think we've listened to people who wanted to cut things enough. I really feel like we spent almost the entire meeting on people that want to increase, and I know there are people in the town, I don't know how many of them are on the petition, there's no way to know, but I have to imagine this is going to come up on May 9th, and I don't know that I could reasonably expect people who felt heard if that's the position they're in.
Yeah.
That's article,
I mean-
that's the first article, right?
Right, so.
Whoa.
No, so I understand, I just want to say, I understand the point completely, that's why we have this meeting.
But I don't think we've heard enough. I think Victor, okay.
I understand completely, right? But we can only, we warned the meeting, we put two.
But I think Victor's speaking up right now.
No, I understand
Sorry,
what Victor's saying.
I didn't fully understand. So, yes, so I was thinking when we go back to the other
And-
budget, but.
and we
the people that
understand
want to
Dexter's
be in the
points.
minus column.
Yeah.
I understand Dexter's points, definitely. Susan?
Am I right that, I feel like this is like three-dimensional chess. We've got people in the town office who are saying, I am drowning, get us more staff. We've got the select board who are saying, we are drowning, get us a town administrator. And we've got taxpayers who are saying, we are drowning, we can't pay these taxes. How do we do these three things? And we also have a budget that we passed. Just an idea, there's $40,000 that we need if we were to get all of the drowning people a life raft. Can we find the $40,000 by cutting the budget? So that basically the existing Article 1 budget, mine that budget for the $40,000 here and there, a little of this, a little of that, add up to $40,000, just it.
I don't think we can, but I wanted to hear from somebody.
We can look at that, definitely we can look at that.
But I would.
Cheryl?
So I want to get away from the budget, and I want to get away from all of this, so this is what I want to say. Town administrator, the position is mostly to support the select board. They're not going to be in that office helping the town clerk duties, treasurer duties, or assistant town clerk duties. They're not. There's an extreme backlog in this office. Our vault is overflowing. We have records that are actually having issues with mold. We have an indexing system that things need to be corrected. Things going back as far as say, somebody who has an estate, life estate, that should be a corporation, it shouldn't be a name. Okay? There is so many little things I can tell you. There are policies and procedures that need to be updated. Our personnel policy, they're starting to work on it. They just finally just did the procurement policy, which was great. Stacy put a whole lot of time into that, and she did it on her own time for her $700 a year. Our speeding ordinance is outdated. We cannot hire in Washington County to come sit on Shady Hill Road. Because if somebody gets a speeding ticket, we can't enforce it. It gets tossed out of the court because the signage is not correct. Our job policy needs to be updated.
You don't have to direct it to me.
No, I'm not. Sorry. We have so many little, our animal control, okay, say, this lady, Christina, forgoes her money. And the reason she did it last year was because the dogs up on French Road cost $1,500 to have their heads amputated to find out if they had rabies or not. The town didn't have a system in place to collect that money from those people, and it shouldn't. We don't have a policy for bounce checks. I deal with those 5, 6, 7 times, and let me tell you, there's no database in this town, so when I have to call somebody to collect on their taxes, I'm looking at zoning permits. I'm looking at, did they ever pay an ACH? Because maybe there might be a phone number on there. There might be an email. There's so many things that need to be addressed. And a town administrator is going to be able to support those things while we're still doing our regular jobs and trying to do upkeep. If I challenge anybody to come into that office and work the week of May 20th, you have people coming in to pay it, to bring us a check. They want a receipt, and sometimes we're in the middle of doing a deposit, and if you're in the middle of doing a deposit and you take in a check, it's all out the door. You start from scratch. And there are a lot of people that do that.
Am I
We have-
calling the police?
We have
Police
escrow,
to come in.
we have escrow payments that come in. We have people calling us to say, hey, my neighbor is, what are we doing about the smoke next door? So it's a constant phone. I mean, Brenda takes so much off the office by just answering the phone, taking the payments in for taxes. There's just so much little, today, the phones were driving me completely insane. As soon as I started to do one thing, the phone was ringing. There was problems with the Cemetery Commission, with the RFPs on that. So it was just, there's always a day, you're putting out a fire, where I've been thinking like, maybe I want to change my hours to go Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Because you can't get anything done. There's so many needs. People that are deciding that they're going to, oh, I'm going out of town, but guess what? My passport expired, so now I need a birth certificate. Can you come on Saturday and give me a birth certificate? Those are the things that happen. And I feel like Sarah, she retired a year early, and she did it because I think she felt unsupported. The system's become overwhelmed to her. You can't even open a file cabinet in there and have a place to put a document right now. But there's a file in there from 1990 for a fire truck. Guess what? We don't have it. There's always something, you know what I mean? And I really feel like the town administrator will come in the door, they're gonna support the select board, and hopefully they can get some grants. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, last week I sent 2 emails out for some significant money that was gonna come in for these grants. That could come in for these grants, but somebody's gotta apply for them. I'd love to learn that, but guess what? I'm not no expert, and you need to get somebody in there that can do that. I went to the Legion, the American Legion, and there was a girl sitting there. She said, hey, I hear about Middlesex having some trouble with grants. Let me tell you this little story. She says there's new money out there in this administration for the state of Vermont is coming out and say, so public safety has these people now set aside to say, we're going to help you get this money. We're going to help you get this grant. We're going to help you apply for this. But somebody's got to be there to do that job. And somebody's got to be able to make those calls.
So that's just a day in the line for the town office. You just heard it. Hang on. I want to recognize Steve. He had his hand up at one time. You okay, Brenda? Bridget, yes.
Just piggybacking on what Cheryl was saying, it's also, Center Road's got a pothole, there's a utility line down, and I'm opening the drawer and there's a birth certificate from 1986 that is just floating around. And so it's that kind of thing where you're just, it's one fire to the next. So I'm super excited. Cheryl loves her job, I love my job, Brenda loves her job. We're excited to meet the town administrator when and if that happens. And I think that I agree that with Matt that if we want to talk about different areas where we can cut the budget as well, as long as this issue is still wrapped in a bow and is fully understood, then I'm all for that as well.
So we are now almost to 7:30. Yeah. Any other comments before we close?
Cheryl,
Yes.
you're coming to the same
Is
speech.
the budget presentation in the town report available in spreadsheet format for the public?
Can you ask that again one more time?
Is the budget presentation in the town report available to the
I think it's on
public?
your site.
I don't know if I put the most the approved. I think I put the approved.
Yeah, I think you did.
I can make
It's
sure.
on your
Yep.
website?
I can
Yep.
make sure I get it.
Louder.
I was just going to say that I was also a little confused about the background and had some of your same questions. And, I think this just goes to show that people getting together in the room and talking about it is the only way, right? And town meeting is great, but it's almost too short, right?
2.5 hours is too short.
Yeah, it was 45 minutes or 50 minutes for one article.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the solution is, but getting together more and talking is, right.
Sam?
When it comes to May 9th, I think is the date, the process, I just wanted to get some clarity around the process that day. So if it was to go to Article 2, do people have the option still if they want to keep the existing budget? That's my first question. Is it only...
Sure, they can make a floor amendment to to change the
So
budget
they
to that
can, so they
amount.
still have the option to
Mhm.
stay with the existing budget that was voted on if they want to, if it gets to Article 2.
Yes.
That was kind of my first question.
Yep.
Second one, can we, the budget committee, only come up with one proposed budget? Would we want to come up with, because I feel like I don't know if we got everything we needed today,
Right.
but would we want to come up with more than one alternative
We may
budget? Because I
well.
feel like we've kind
Yes.
of gone up, maybe some people want to go down, so I
We-
don't know if we want to have like a budget option that's up and one that's down to present.
I think we need to look at a couple of options.
I mean,
Yes.
what I'm wondering is like pieces, you know, it's like we could say, all right, maybe these are savings we could find, and those could
Yep.
be used to reduce the budget, or they could be used to pay for some hours of a position,
Yes.
or, you know,
Right.
if we had a few different like
Just to have some
chunks that could be
options.
added in or subtracted.
I think we do, but I think we have to, you know, the challenge with options, right, is when we go to the May 4th meeting, we gotta come out of there with one number,
Yeah, I mean,
Right, right.
one number.
Because there's, I mean, there's people here tonight, which is great,
Yep.
but hopefully there'll be more people May 9th,
Yes,
you know, and there'll be discussion.
it's a Saturday.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mark,
See
did
if that
you
helps.
say you're coming up with just, the budget committee says there's just one action for
No.
May 9th? Is that what you said?
So no, the budget committee may well present more than one option to the select board on the 4th.
Oh,
But at
okay.
that meeting, we have to have one number
So
for
from,
Article 2.
so at the end of May 4th,
Yes,
so what you are going to provide as an option if Article 2
Yes.
gets voted on is one,
yes,
gotcha, thank you.
yes. And then we, if we get there, we redo Article 6, like we're at town meeting. Dexter?
First, I was going to ask you, do you know the status of the reserve funds, the capital reserve funds? I know that it hasn't been audited since like '24.
We're currently in the midst of the audit, the regular audit is the excuse.
And we don't know the amount we're getting, the windfall from FEMA? We don't know. There's some other things we don't know.
So far, there's no windfall.
Well,
I mean,
that's contrary to what the select board's been saying, so, I don't know.
there has, so far there hasn't been a windfall for.
Is there a comment here?
Yes, Larry. Yep.
Bill, did you
Bill?
have a comment?
So Bill, May 9th will consist of two articles. The first article will be, should we rescind the approved budget, 2.262 million that we passed on March 3rd? If the vote is yes, we should rescind it, we go to Article 2, and there will be a motion for an amount to start the discussion.
Now, are we voting on that, or is it going to be, period? You were going to propose, or the select board is going to propose a higher or a lower number?
Right, it's likely, Bill, that I will propose a number for Article 2. And that could be higher, it could be lower, that'll depend on what we come out of the May 4th select board meeting with.
And then that's what the vote is either going to be, either carry it or you change it.
Correct. You got it, Bill.
Thank you.
All right, we're now past 7:30, I'm getting loopy.
I just really, I think it's
Oh,
really
yes,
important.
Susan, I'm
I
sorry.
just think it's really important to note that what we're talking about is a number. And if somebody proposes another number, then we're talking about that number. But what we aren't talking about, we can talk all we want about staffing, but ultimately the staffing decision gets made by the select board. So the kind of fine tuning that we're talking about here, it would be really, 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 really good if that became clear in the conversation that the budget committee has with the select board and ultimately then the select board proposes to the voters. Because a room full of 150 people trying to say, well, what if it was 34 hours? Could turn the town meeting to a very difficult conversation.
Yep, Liz and I had that conversation this morning. about your point, and yes, we're gonna have to be very specific and clear about what this alternate budget looks like and why it is different from the current budget.
And I think those of us who have strong feelings about it need to participate in your budget meetings, need to participate in the select board discussion. The time for that conversation is, new ideas on May 9th would probably be less good. Just going to be way more hard to manage. It's just, this is a really good time to things.
A joint meeting between the select board and the budget committee, open to the public, would be really beneficial. I'm disappointed that that didn't happen tonight.
Well, that'll be the fourth, right?
Sean?
We're just gonna propose a dollar amount, and I believe you're correct that the select board can do with it whatever they want, but I think it's incumbent upon the select board to tell us what they're going to do with the money during that discussion before we say, here's a whole bunch of money. How about you tell us what you're gonna do with that? And you lock into it, you know, because if all this is done, and let's say we even come in lower, but the select board says, well, we're gonna do with it what we want.
I mean, that's what a budget is. A budget is
Yeah.
select board standard.
It's the spirit of
I
it.
think we should think about trust, because it's a very sacred commodity, that if we come up with a budget that we all think is good, let's say it's a hair over what the current budget is, and it gets approved. I know that from a budget committee standpoint, our expectation will be that the select board continues to work in the best interest of the town and follows that budget as closely as they can. And I know that in conversations I've had with members of the select board, the discussions have centered around, well, they generally would only divert from that if we had an emergency, right? If we had something we had to pay for that was not in the budget, we're gonna get the money.
But if you
Okay.
make a presentation that includes a structure,
Yes,
you would expect that that structure is what's going to be executed if they get that
Yes.
money.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable assumption. Dave?
I was just curious if after you go to the select board on the 4th, will there be, before the 9th, will people be able to look at the proposed budget, or will we not see it until
No,
we see Article 2?
Liz and I talked about that this morning. We've got to have something. The timing is just tough, right? It's tough between the 4th and the 9th. But we will be putting, it's probably a couple of times on Front Porch Forum, to say, hey, this is the alternate budget, and here's the differential from the current budget. And it's going to be very specific, so people understand that. Becca?
I just want, can I make you a clarification of the process from here? So you are the budget committee, and there's other people who are on the budget committee?
Yep, Elias, Sam, Dorinda, Matt.
And you guys are taking what we discussed here this evening?
Yes.
Under advisement, you're gonna make this incredible, comprehensive, reflective thing, bring it to the select board and say, this is what we heard from folks, this is what we think is the best path forward if folks vote to rescind the other budget. The select board will take all of that under advisement
Yes.
and put together a new budget, and then we have 5 days to get it out to folks?
Yes.
Okay. And then my other question is, if folks who were not here tonight or were here and have thoughts later, do they email the budget committee on the select board with their thoughts, or call, or how do folks who are not here?
So the best thing in the interim, since we'll be meeting next week, is to email the budget committee. And you can, our emails aren't in the town report, are they? Just phone numbers.
It's useless.
I mean, people can always call me. And they can, pardon?
When you put personal emails into Word,
Oh, right.
it brings the public information, so if
Yeah.
you use it for town business, that means all of your stuff. is
Yeah,
there.
I understand.
I bet a town administrator could get everybody in town.
Yeah, right. Oh, please, we're not gonna go
Then
there.
we have to pay to
We're not gonna go
archive
there.
it, just so you know.
All right, I think I think we have enough on which to act. And so I thank everybody online and here for their participation. It has been enlightening, to say the least. So it's great to see folks here and, committed to the betterment of our town, because we need this. So thanks again, appreciate it.